Coming to you from the dining room table at East Barbary Lane, welcome to a special episode of Full Circle, the podcast. I am your host, Charles Tyson Jr., and today I am thrilled to be sitting with our guest. Juano Diaz is a wonderful author and artist, and his autobiography entitled Slum Boy has been called by The Guardian one of the most moving accounts of nonfiction ever written, and I cannot help but agree. Juano, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Charles. That's some introduction. Thank you.
You definitely deserve it. So the first question that I decided I needed to ask you after reading this turbulent, tumultuous tale, ooh, that was alliterative, is how are you doing now? Tell me good things about yourself now.
Yes, I am good. Honestly, I thought as an adult, I thought to myself, you know what? I've lived with my past. I've lived with my childhood, with the abuse, the anxiety, the adoptions, the losing people. I really thought I dealt with that until I had to sit down and write this book. And what really got me was the early part of my childhood, having to sit and go through 300 pages of social work records and write about this little boy's life, my life. It broke me, and it broke me not for me. It broke me because there's still thousands of children all over the world who are going through these kind of things daily. Hunger, living in terrible circumstances, sexual abuse, violence, alcoholism. So yeah, it really broke me having to sort of go through that, and it made me realize, Christ, I have come this bloody far.
Yes,
and
you
I've
have.
made it. So, but I'm good. I'm really good. I'm really loving that people are reaching out from different backgrounds. I'm hearing nothing from artists, which is great. I'm hearing a lot from people who were in care, who were in children's homes, and social workers, and people who work with alcoholics. My mother was an alcoholic and a street worker, and I'm loving that. I'm loving hearing from everyone, and people saying, I went through very similar things. That's horrible to hear, but just to know that you're not alone is nice.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about the process of writing this book, because you had to revisit so much pain and uncertainty and darkness in order to tell your story. I mean, what were you doing in terms of self-care? Because I hope you had a support system while you were going through the process of putting this book together.
I always say that art is my support system. I use art as a therapy. I always have. But again, writing about those early years caught me off guard. And at one point I said, I'm going to have to seek some extra help to speak about this while I'm writing this. And the crazy thing is, here in the UK, we are being cut massively in every aspect. The arts are being cut by the government. Doctors, nurses, you can't get seen. You can't get a dental appointment, and the health, the mental health practices are just overrun and terribly run, as far as I'm concerned. It took a long time for the appointment to come up, and by that point I was kind of like, okay, I've dealt with it already myself. But yeah, it's been really what's been really healing is talking about it, going out to festivals and talking about it, and people asking questions, because what I noticed people do is they tend to ask questions um, to things they need answers to within themselves,
Mm.
but they'll do it through the guise of asking questions about my story. If you know, do you know what I mean? But anyway, I find that really fascinating, and yeah, I've met a huge network of people from all different backgrounds that have just come and kind of put their arms around me and gave me a big hug and opened up, and it's been fab. I've really loved the process. It's been tough, but I've loved it.
Good. And I definitely hear you about art being a support system because I've
Yeah.
said many, many times if it were not for the ability to express
Hmm.
myself through art, I don't know that I would be here.
I say the same thing, Charles. I totally hear you. I hear you. Maybe not so much now, but more when I was going through my teenage years,
Hmm.
and you're sort of going through that sort of time where you're trying this you're going through puberty and there's all these emotions running everywhere. If I hadn't had the means to express myself, whether it be, putting a wig on and my mum's fur coat and climbing out the bedroom window, which is what I used to do.
Hmm.
And not because anybody could see me, because I would do it in the middle of the night, and I'd walk around this tiny village in Scotland, and it was just that liberating feeling that I'm doing something fabulous and authentically me, and I'm not conforming to my upbringing, which was,
Part of the
yeah,
point
which
of it.
was your
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And yeah, and you were doing it for yourself. You weren't doing it for other people.
That's right. That's right.
And sometimes that's the best stuff when
It's the
you're not
best medicine sometimes.
right. You're not worried about the outside eye, the outside
Right.
opinion.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I imagine that your art, if you were to do a side by side comparison of your art then and your art now, there would be some drastic differences. There would have to be.
There are, but there's still a common theme. For me, when I was a little boy, when I was separated from my mother, to give some context to the listeners, my mother was a street worker and a lady of the night, prostitute, however you want to call it. I say street worker. And she was an addict, she was an alcoholic, and she had a lot of mental health issues. So she would leave me and my sisters for long periods of time and go to work and come home drunk. And an incident happened where we lost one of the men that she kind of really attached to, and he was really good for her in many ways. And we both saw him drown when I was a little boy, and it just threw my mum's world upside down, and she just wasn't able to mentally cope, physically cope. So my sisters were put into care, and the social services tried to kind of keep me with my mum, and they really could have done more to support her, but they tried to keep me with her, but they kept separating us and putting me into care while she tried to do rehab. Anyway, eventually I was put into this children's home, and my mum, because she was drinking, would kind of stopped visiting. She would say she was going to turn up, and she wouldn't. So I had no photographs, and by this time the social workers were preparing me to be adopted, and they'd given me a scrapbook, and they said, "Okay, we don't have any photos of your mum, but draw some images." And that's where it all came from for me, because I I loved this woman. She was a very exotic looking woman. She had red hair and very high cheekbones and very kind of Asian eyes. And I would just draw this face with the big spider leg lashes, and faces became very important from that moment. And then also when I was adopted, it continued, because it was the only thing I had to remember my mother's image. So drawing faces became very, very important. And then when I got to school, I remember the teachers photographing the class
Mm-hmm.
and photocopying it. And back in the day, the old photocopiers had an ink that, when it dried, you could scratch it with a knife, and you could remove some of the black area on the
Yes.
paper. So I used to change my face, and
Wow.
sometimes I look like my mom, and I just started to play with my face, like, and then I would build a kind of decoupage and collage around it. So it really started then, but really, really, really young.
So you were trying to reconstruct your past through the art of
Yeah.
deconstruction.
I was trying to find I was trying to find my identity within this world that I'd been adopted into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my adoptive father was of the Romani Gypsy community,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother was Catholic. They were very, very strict, very closed, very private people. So when I asked my parents, why are my eyes like this? Why do I laugh like this? They had no reference, and they didn't want to know, because as far as they were concerned, we adopted you. You're one of us now. Forget the past, and
Mm-hmm.
and you know. So it was difficult for them, but because they hadn't the training. This I'm talking in the 80s. There was no
Right.
training for people to adopt. It was literally, here's a child, get on with it.
Go. Right. Exactly.
you know. So so yeah, it was. I don't know where I was going with that, but
Well, yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, your adopted family. It really did feel like they didn't want you to even think about your past. That
no.
your life started when they brought you home.
That's right. And I think that's really unfair
It
to do that
is.
to a child. I'm an adoptive parent myself. Me and my partner have a little boy.
I love that.
And the amazing thing about now, when you go through the adoption process, you have weeks, months of coursework, months with social workers and learning about the developing brain of a child. And what my parents, and I love my parents. The people who adopted me are my parents, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But they could have done with the training that they're given now, um, because I think to hold a child back, which is what I felt happened to me, I think it's detrimental to the child's development. You have to approach adoption with patience, curiosity, empathy, play, and some of those elements were there, but to be shut down and told, let's not speak about that, let's leave your whole identity to the side and now be this person. It's impossible for a child to do that.
Especially considering at that point in your life, in your development as a child, your entire being is curiosity and
Of
wanting to
course it is.
know and who am I and why am I. So I can't imagine like stunting that,
Yeah,
like trying to tamp down the child's natural sense of curiosity and wonder and
yes.
learning.
It's really impossible to do, and it's really what caused a big rift between me and especially my adoptive mother. She just couldn't understand why I just couldn't settle, and she didn't have. They had no reference to the nun who looked after me in the children's home, the man who sexually abused me for weeks on end in a children's home, violently and emotionally. I was told not to talk. Don't talk about it. Let's get on with it now. They had no reference to my mother, who I'd seen in bed with men, and the hunger, and they had nothing of that. And there was no opportunity to express it, to talk it through. And yeah,
That's an interesting point. It From what I got in the book, it feels like your introduction to the concept of sex and sexuality was warped.
it was violent. It was
Right.
it, it was violent, and it was twisted. I'd already seen, I already knew by the age of 5 what men and women do,
Right.
because I'd seen my mother working.
Right.
She was so incapacitated at times that, this is just the way it was. And but then when I went into care, and other things were going on, not just with me, with other children that were involved in these incidents, um, it was really confusing, really, really confusing. Um, and I don't know, to this day, I don't know how much my adoptive parents knew. I don't know if they knew my mother's past. I don't think they did. Um, I think had they known, maybe they could have got me some therapy early on,
Right.
and that's why I used self therapy with the art.
Thank goodness
I
for
had
art.
to, you know.
Thank goodness for art. Um, so and I saw how in your teenage years and your early adulthood, it felt like a lot of your relationships were like transactional. Like how did all of that affect your adult relationships, if I may ask?
I didn't have many adult relationships. I mean, we've all kind of done stuff. I had a few relationships where I allowed people to walk over me, and I got into stupid situations and stuff. I think we all have when we're younger. Um, I've been so sort of laser focused with creating art and photographs and film that it's kind of it overtook all that for a long, long time. Um, and I've had a couple of relationships. The relationship I'm in just now is probably the most like level one. Um, but yeah,
Well, I do love that for you.
yeah, it's good.
I imagine, you know, I mean, we all go through that period of wanting to please others,
Hmm.
but you had to go through that for a sense of like stability and survival,
Hmm.
especially with your adoptive parents wanting to be the kind of person they wanted you to be,
Hmm.
which meant not being who you were.
Mm.
And I felt like, you know, that was a constant struggle.
It was, but I fought so hard against them.
You
I
did.
think that's
You were a
I think
difficult
that
child.
they would say that. They would say, my father to this day would say, you were such an arsehole to us. And in a joking way.
Right.
I couldn't help it. I had to express myself. I had to, when I was at that age where I understood what was what, I didn't give a shit. I went out in the village and wore high heels and was making these big camp paintings and just being myself. I wasn't going to conform to working in a scrapyard and living in a boxing gym, which is what my dad done. I hated it. It wasn't me. It wasn't my It's not my nature.
You were
So
so much bigger than the life that you,
I just
yeah.
have creativity connected to my core.
Mm-hmm.
And in a small village in Scotland, there's no reference at all for that. So one wonderful thing happened with satellite TV when that appeared back in the 80s. And we suddenly were exposed to like fashion TV,
Mm.
MTV, and all that the visual stuff. I mean, I just drunk all in and went with it. So it was almost like an explosion waiting to happen.
Okay. Favorite supermodel, go.
Naomi Campbell,
That better have been the answer.
also Marpesa.
Okay.
Marpesa, she's sensational.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I was a Naomi fan myself.
Yeah, she's stunning, stunning.
Every now and again, I whip out my Naomi Campbell walk just because.
Hey, why not? You have to. Have
Exactly.
to.
You know, I dare say that your life, as recorded in this book, is basically a advertisement for putting and keeping the arts in schools.
Oh my God. I'm so honored that you said that. I would love to get this book into the schools and let the teachers read it.
Oh
And you're
yeah.
right. It's like the schools need the arts. They need it. Listen, what was the first thing that people went to when the pandemic hit? Music,
Yeah.
art,
Mm-hmm.
TV,
Mm-hmm.
video, visual.
Because
It
that
is
was
so
comfort.
it is so important. Without art, life is just shit.
Mm-hmm. And
It's
it's
just
always the
shit.
first thing to get cut,
Yeah, yeah.
as if
It's
it's not an essential part of life.
I honestly can't remember the last time I had to do a times table. I mean, really, well, some of the stuff we got taught at school, and my school was horrific. The teachers were bullies, they were assholes. And, I had teachers that called me faggot,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it was terrible, really terrible. And I'm lucky that we had an amazing art department. And I had one teacher that I just adore. Her name's Norma, and she's a very good friend of mine still. And if I hadn't had this woman in my life, I don't know if I'd be here. Honestly, I really don't know if I'd be here. I was at a period in my childhood, sort of 13, 14, 15, where I was so unhappy, and I had nobody to speak to, and nobody who understood how important creativity was, and she did, and she was that one person, and she took me and really mothered me in a way that I really needed. And it wasn't all about her being an art teacher. It was this sort of patience and curiosity and empathy that came from her. It was just, she is just, I love her so much. And I think we're lucky when we're young and we have that person. Um, and not everyone gets that opportunity to have that person. If I hadn't had her, I would not be doing what I'm doing today.
I believe it. We need someone to see us.
She was the first person in all my childhood who allowed me to talk about my adoption. Isn't
Mm,
that crazy? Not
mm.
even no family members. It was all kept. Shh, shh, shh. She was the first person who said, "Let's explore it in your work." How liberating for me to have that as a.
Definitely. And so what is your favorite medium to work in?
Um, I honestly don't have a favorite. I love technology.
Okay.
I'm a really early Photoshop person, so I love, I love digital, and yeah, AI is going a bit crazy right now, but some of it's extraordinary. I mean, I can take an old black and white photograph of me and bring it to life, and I
Mm-hmm.
could I could literally make a movie from
Mm-hmm.
a photograph, and I love that. I love that it's becoming so accessible. Some of it's completely ridiculous, but if the
Yeah.
tools are used properly, they can work. Um, but one thing I've loved a lot since I've written the book is I've just gone back to painting, just painting with oils, and I'm loving it. I'm loving that.
Because that's like the most organic and, for lack of a better word, primal.
Yeah, it's the most authentic. It's the most
That.
authentic. There's no taking a photograph of a flower outside to then cut it up and paste it on something online on the computer. You have to know what you're doing with the paintbrush, and
Right.
it's the
Because there's
most
no
authentic.
undo button with the paintbrush.
Right? There's no undo. Yeah, so I'm loving painting just now. I have a studio here, and it's a fantastic space. and it's a new space for me, and it's very high ceilings. So I'm like getting all the big canvases out and just like playing.
I
So
love
it's
it.
good.
I love it. And seeing you come out on the other side as this strong creative person, it makes me happy and it gives me hope for so many of the other people out there who have troubled pasts. And in addition to visual arts, you're an author. What besides the book, like, is there a plan for a movie of the book
Yes.
in your head?
I honestly can't say too much because I'm literally dealing with it right now.
Oh,
But it's and yeah, but yeah, it's going to happen.
that's okay. I'm glad the answer is yes.
Yes, yes, that's exciting.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. So, you mentioned, a relationship with music. Is there a soundtrack that you like to have going when you're working?
Oh my God, everything by Kate Bush.
Yes.
Literally everything by Kate Bush, and I'm a late comer to Kate Bush. I only kind of heard her. Well, I mean, I knew of her, but I didn't really listen until I met my partner. What, 9 years ago? And now it's like I need Kate Bush on to paint. But I also listen to a lot of percussion. I like glockenspiel, and
Interesting.
I like a lot of percussion. My friend, she's called Dame Evelyn Glennie. She's an incredible percussionist, um, and we're going to be doing Slum Boy with Alan Cumming at his at Pitlochry Festival Theatre in January next year. So I'm going to be reading parts of Slum Boy while Evelyn does this very haunting percussion, and so I listen to a lot of different music.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. What was your soundtrack when you were writing?
Okay, so I listen to a lot of Anthony and the Johnsons,
That sounds right.
um, just to get you know, to get into that vibe, especially the early years. I listened to some of Grace Jones's Hurricane album.
Mm-hmm.
She kindly gave me the short quote from "I'm Crying Mother's Tears," which is at the start of the book. Um, that song in particular is just everything I feel about that book, um, because the song is saying, I'm I'm grown enough to sort of cry my mother's tears. So it's kind of saying I'm old enough to understand what my mother went through, you know. So yeah. So when I said, Grace, can I use this little snippet? Because I'd love people to just see it and then maybe play it and listen to it after they've read the book. They'll understand this record. And she's like, yes. So I was like,
I
thank
love
you.
that. Look at you. Okay. Alan Cumming and Grace Jones. That's
Alan's great.
beautiful.
I love Alan. He's, you know what? I feel very protective of him.
Me too, actually.
He's a fellow Scot, but most importantly, he's a fellow fawn. He's a fellow imp.
True. This is
Yes,
true. And that's one of the things we love about him so much.
he's adorable. He's adorable.
It really is. Um, I love that you mentioned in the book that your addiction is art.
Hmm.
And that's the healthiest addiction I can think of.
Hey, it could have been so many other things, honestly.
Exactly.
But here we are, and yeah, I smoke. That's an addiction. But I can't drink. You know, my mother was an alcoholic. I'm not into taking drugs. I like to know where my mind is.
Right.
But yeah, I couldn't live without. creativity. And I get this thing where if I have something in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
can't get to the studio to work on it, it starts to drive me. It starts to like irritate me.
Right.
It starts to like I need to get it out. So if I can't get to the studio, I need to get something to draw it onto.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel you on that. I definitely do. Um, you have a wonderful use of language in the way that you wrote this book. Where did you obviously have a love of words. Were you a voracious reader as well?
No, never. I don't think I'd read a full book in my life.
Really?
Yes. I came to reading very, very late.
I
And
mean, understandable.
when I wrote a screenplay actually, and it was based on a part of the book you have in front of you, Slum Boy. Um, but I kind of fabricated it and the made the characters not me, so that I could hide behind these characters. And I put it to Alan Cumming, and he was like, "This is fantastic. Let's get it made." And I was living in New York at the time, and we both came back to Scotland, and I ended up falling in love with my partner here and adopting a little boy. And then through the process of trying to rework this piece that I'd written, Slumboy appeared, and I was like, let me just tell my truth instead of trying to write this other thing. And but no, I approach writing very much in the same way that I would with painting. I find them very, very similar. You're just creating a visual with words.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I also come from the gypsy culture where we have we speak English,
Mm-hmm.
but my family also speak what's known as Scottish Roma Cant, which is their own language, and they're big, big storytellers as well. So I'm used to hearing story, and I'm used to hearing narrative, especially from my grandmother. Um, and I would hear it in both languages. So I would hear it in my family speaks English, but we also speak the Scots Roma Cant. So I guess words and stories have always been a big part of my life, even though I didn't read. I would read art books.
Mm-hmm.
I would look through a biography of an artist and look at all the details, but I'd never sat down and read a novel until I'd finished Slumboy.
Okay.
And I only picked them up because I had to. I was started to be introduced to other authors, and but it's been fantastic. I've opened this whole new world to myself.
I love that. And
Yeah.
it's of your own creation.
Yes.
That's beautiful. That is one of the warmer moments in the book is when you were introduced to the Romani culture.
Hmm.
Um, it felt like to me coming home for you.
Hmm.
Does that sound accurate?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's although the culture was very hard and very private, and the men had certain expectations put upon them to be, real men. You box,
Right.
and you go and you work in the family scrapyard, which my dad owned, and it's a very hard world. And I found the softness in the females of the family, particularly my father's mother, my granny, who I just adored. She was a clairvoyant woman, so she would do tarot cards, tea leaves, and that's how they made their money.
Mm-hmm.
They would, when they travelled around. My family were settled in a property in a house, but when my dad was born, he was born in a wagon,
Mm-hmm.
and they travelled round, and that's how my grandmother made money. she what we call dirking, which is clairvoyance,
Mm-hmm.
and she loved me like she loved her own people. There was no separation, you know. She'd take me and cuddle me and tell me stories and sing me songs, and yeah, that's coming home to any child, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's the element that I love. Basically, they saw you and just went, mine.
Yeah, it is. It really is, and that's incredible. I owe them a lot because they instilled in me a lot of good morals. Something I wanted to do with Slum Boy was show what these people are actually like, because they get a real bad rap, especially here in the UK. In the media, we see traveling gypsy people being completely exploited on television. You know, they have, I think it's My Big Fat Gypsy Wedding, a TV show. It's awful. It's just awful. And
That doesn't sound like it would be any good at all.
it's just trash. It's that kind of trash TV where like when they show those hoarder people and they
Oh,
just exploit these poor mentally ill people or challenged people. It's just very, very similar here in the UK towards the travelling community. So I just wanted to be as honest as I could and say that is not what I experienced with these people. Yeah, it was hard, and yeah, you were expected to have sort of be a man's man and be very private and live the gypsy way, but there was also a really wonderful culture to be embraced by. So
I love it. So, your queer identity was a very important part of the book and, of course, of your life. Basically, I guess, tell me about being a spot of color in a gray world.
I mean, what else can I be? You know, we are so lucky in so many ways that we don't live in other countries where we'd be lynched. We'd be
Yes.
lynched even for having a couple of tattoos and having fabulous glasses that you're wearing. You know,
Thank you. Thank
we wouldn't be able to breathe.
you. Right.
And
Lynched if we're lucky, you
it's
know?
just so sad. Um, and in so many ways, I feel like we're going backwards fast, and that frightens me. And I think it frightens me more that I have a child that I'm raising, and I worry about what kind of world he's going into. And when I look back at my own childhood, although there's been lots of hard lessons, I feel really lucky that we're able to be ourselves.
Right.
And I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, I can imagine being anything else than a queer person.
Right.
And
Indeed. Indeed.
I love it. I love my colors.
Exactly. And that's the thing that so many people don't understand. Like, we bring color to the world, we bring
Yes.
magic to the world. So much of what makes the beautiful tapestry of our society, of our culture, both locally and globally,
Mm-hmm.
comes from us. It just
Of
does.
course it
That's
does.
just facts.
Hey, without us, the world would be a grim, grey, nylon,
Right.
flat, you know, place
There
with
would be no
horrible faces.
texture. Everyone's hair would be just flat and lifeless.
Yeah, yeah,
And they wouldn't have a frame of reference to want anything better.
that's right. That's right. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's true.
It is true. And I love that you're a daddy now. So what lessons from your own upbringing do you think you will choose to pass on to your own kid?
As you're saying that, I have actor John Leguizamo in my head. where he's in drag and he's doing one of his characters that he done on stage. I think it was a show he done called Spicorama,
Yes, 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 yes.
and he says, "You hate your own mother until you become her,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're filled with the deepest respect." And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I used to think, gosh, my adoptive mother. I used to think, gosh, she was so hard on me. Why didn't she just let me have that gum and that bubble gum, and why didn't she just let me be fabulous? And then you have a child to raise, and you see how difficult it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I have is that I have the same experience that my child had. I'm adopted. He's adopted. So I come at it with a really different angle. I can answer all those questions that my parents couldn't answer for me, which were detrimental, really.
Right.
And but I love being with Dad. It's just the best thing, and he's so musical, and I just love watching him create. It's wonderful.
How old is he?
He's 9.
Oh, I love that age. I taught kids for 20 years, so like I know what 9 looks like.
Yes. Well, he came into our life when he was 4, um, and it's not it's not my story to tell, but he came from a really difficult start also,
Mm.
and it's just I'm so proud of the little man that he's becoming.
And the thing about 4-year-olds, there's still that's the age like they're still not afraid to love, like
Yes,
openly. So if the fact that you got him at that point and move forward with a loving, nurturing environment is
yes.
perfection.
Yes.
I love
One
that
of,
for
one of the
you.
amazing one of the amazing things I learned when I was going through the adoption process and doing all the coursework with psychologists and all these doctors is that the you learn a lot about the developing brain of a child.
Mm-hmm.
And when a child goes through things that I went through, my child went through starvation and abuse and neglect, they damage the brain. They physically damage the brain. So the child does have an amount of a stump in learning almost. And what's incredible is that the
Mm-hmm.
love of a parent rebuilds and refires the neurons in the brain and heals the brain.
It's
I
true.
just, I mean, I get goosebumps saying it. That for me is to hear that. When I heard that, it was so um, groundbreaking because it put everything into context for why I behaved the way I did as a child and
Mm.
why my parents chose the decisions in the way they wanted to parent me. Because they loved me. They showed me love, physical love. It was tough love, but
Right.
it was still secure love. And yeah, I make sure my child has plenty of the good stuff.
I love that. And you get to heal certain parts of yourself
He
through loving
heals me.
him.
Yes, it has healed me more than anything has healed me having this experience.
I love that for you.
Yeah,
I really do. So your story is one that everyone needs to read. It is not an easy story, but in the end, there is definitely a ray of hope, and it gives us different ideas of what home is, of what
yes,
love looks like,
yes.
um, and I think it's a very valuable book. So I definitely
Thank you so
recommend
much.
everyone within the sound of our voice to pick up a copy of Slum Boy. Where would you immediately point people to purchase your book? Where should we go?
You know what? In the USA, it's come out in February. I'm not even quite sure where you can get it there. I'm pretty sure in most bookshops you should be able to get it.
Okay.
But failing that, we have a backup plan. If you go to my social media, if you put my name in, Juano Diaz, you'll find me on most social media. And I have those link trees.
Yes. Yes, we
And it
have
gives you
one.
all the Amazon sell it, Barnes and Nobles have it, most places that have books have it, but it's out on audiobook also, and
Really?
I narrate it.
Do you?
Yes,
Oh, now I have
yes,
to get it twice. Okay.
yeah. So, some people, bought the hardback when it first came out, and then they listened to it and they said it was a completely different story.
Well, I can imagine because you know the inflections, you know where to put the
Yes,
brushstrokes, as it were.
yes,
I always prefer to listen to the author narrate their own work.
I do. I really do. I love an audiobook now.
I do too.
Um, yeah, and I think it's important. And one thing about my book is that it doesn't read like a memoir. I think it reads like a novel also.
It
So
does. There were a couple of times where I had to stop and go back and make sure that it wasn't an actual nonfiction work.
yes,
So that's a testament to your writing skill. So the best place to reach you is via social media?
yeah, you can.
If we
I'm
wanted
on
to
most.
learn more about you?
Yep.
Okay, fabulous. And I will make sure to put all of that information in the notes of this episode. Juano Diaz, this has been a delightful conversation. I am so glad to have met you. And I have a feeling that this is not the last time we will speak together
No,
because
I'll be I'll be out in the States by the end of the year. So
fabulous.
I'll be in New York. So
Okay.
we should hang out.
That sounds good to me. And, I want to catch up on all the new successes that are going to be coming your way
Yes,
because I know that there will be.
of course. I can't stop now.
Why? Why would you?
Stupid idea, isn't it?
Onward and upward, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you so
so
much,
much.
Charles.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Lots of love.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Full Circle is a Never Scared Productions podcast, hosted by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal, produced and edited by Never Scared, executive produced by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal. Our theme and music is by the Jingleberries. All names, pictures, music, audio, and video clips are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective copyright holders.